As governments in developed countries impose more and more bans on cigarette advertising, sale, and consumption, the industry tries to expand to developing countries where they meet lesser restrictions. But why is it that cigarettes are highly taxed and restricted? In economics, this problem is called negative externality of consumption. This means that when cigarettes are consumed, there are negative side effects and hence costs that spill over to society. In economic terms, this can be illustrated very well with a graph like this. Hence, it can be seen that the market currently sells at a price and quantity equal for both marginal private benefit and marginal social cost at this point. However, the social equilibrium, where MSC equals marginal social benefit, is less than that. It's here. This means that the consumption of one additional cigarette has a higher benefit to the consumer than it has to society. This spillover cost has to be paid for by society. For example, when public health care pays for treatment of cancer that was caused by smoking or passive smoking. Because of these costs, there is a market failure, as the market fails to make the consumer pay for all the costs incurred by his or her consumption. In order to solve this market failure and make the consumer pay all the costs, the marginal private benefit has to be reduced to the marginal social benefit. There are three ways to do so: taxation, legislation, and advertising. Currently, there are high taxes on cigarettes, which on the graph moves the MSC curve upwards to this curve. Therefore, the new equilibrium is at a socially acceptable quantity and a higher price, which internalizes the externality. So the equilibrium moves from this point to this point, which is at the same quantity as the social equilibrium, and hence all the costs have been internalized. Legislations are also used to reduce consumption. For example, cigarettes can only be purchased from a certain age on in most countries. Furthermore, advertising is used to reduce demand for cigarettes, for example by showing pictures of the long-term health complications arising from smoking on the packages. Economists generally prefer to use taxation as main intervention in order to internalize the externality because it is a market-based solution. But restrictions and negative advertisement are also widely used. Many developing countries now targeted by the tobacco giants realize the need to internalize the externality. In Uruguay, for example, there have to now be health warnings, a form of negative advertisements, covering 80% of the packaging, and the Philippines and Mexico increased their cigarette taxes.